You thought I didn't know? I knew everything from day one.
We'd just finished having love around midnight. It was one of those quiet post-intimacy moments where everything should have felt warm, close, intimate. But even in that silence, something felt off. She slid out of bed with a casual grin, humming softly as she padded toward the bathroom, already reaching to tie her hair back for the shower. Her phone stayed on the kitchen counter, plugged in as usual. I hadn't given it a second thought in weeks. That night, though, it started buzzing. Once. Then again, rapid, insistent. The screen lit up like it was trying to be noticed. And for some reason, I looked. Not because I was suspicious, not overtly, but something primal in me stirred. A flicker of unease that I didn't yet have the words for. I walked out to the kitchen thinking maybe it was work. She was a project manager after all. Crises weren't unheard of. But when I saw the contact name glowing on the screen, office emergency line, something inside me clicked. Clever. Just clever enough to seem official without inviting scrutiny. I picked it up, just to look. What I found turned my blood to ice. These messages weren't about deadlines or data loss. They were about desire, about sneaking away, about hotel reservations, room numbers, what they'd do to each other when they met next. There were even notes about deleting chats, coordinating excuses, covering tracks, all signed off with hearts, emojis, and the occasional "I miss you already." 6 months, half a year, gone. Everything she'd said to me during that time. Every kiss, every "I'm just tired," every "don't wait up." It all collapsed under the weight of these messages. Suddenly, every late meeting and team-building retreat snapped into place like puzzle pieces I didn't even know I'd been holding. The betrayal wasn't just physical. It was logistical, tactical, a war plan that had been unfolding right under my nose while I was too busy trusting her to see it. Most men, I imagine, would have cracked wide open in that moment, stormed into the bathroom, fists clenched, heart racing, shouting accusations before she could shut off the water, maybe even thrown her phone or worse. That would have been the cinematic thing to do, the emotional thing, the predictable thing. But me? I sat down at the kitchen table, still half-dressed, and read every single word while the woman who had just made love to me sang softly in the shower. She had no idea. Message after message. I love you. Can't wait for Friday. Wish I could fall asleep next to you instead of him. Words that sliced clean through any illusion I had left. The depth of the lie didn't enrage me. It sobered me. That cold, steady kind of rage that sits in your spine and whispers, "You're done playing the fool." When the water finally stopped running and she walked out, towel wrapped around her, face glowing with post-shower serenity, I was already finished collecting evidence. Every message had been screenshotted, stored, and emailed to a secure account. Her phone? Back on the charger, angled precisely the way it had been. She kissed me on the cheek as she passed, humming, completely unaware that everything had changed. Completely unaware she was now living on borrowed time. The next morning, she kissed me goodbye again. Claimed another urgent project required her to stay late. Said she'd be home by 9. I smiled, nodded, told her not to worry, that I'd take care of dinner. I even told her I loved her. She didn't realize she was already standing on the trapdoor. Within 48 hours, I'd found his wife. It wasn't hard. Not in today's world. A quick scan of LinkedIn confirmed the company. Their About Us section had a nauseatingly polished photo of executives and their smiling spouses. There he was, the other man, standing beside a beautiful brunette with 2 kids in front. Her name was Jennifer. I stared at her face for a long time. She didn't know. She was living in the same illusion I'd been living in, waking up beside someone who was actively betraying her, believing the same tired excuses, spinning the same rationalizations in her mind to protect the fragile narrative of a happy home. I called her, and I'll be honest, it was one of the hardest phone calls I've ever made. Not because I was scared, but because I knew what I was about to do would shatter something inside her. You don't just tell a stranger that the person they trust most is systematically destroying them. So I went with facts, introduced myself, explained who I was, how I was connected. I didn't inject emotion, no anger, just data. I asked if she'd noticed any changes lately. Her silence stretched, then she whispered, "Yes." She knew, not consciously maybe, but on some level she knew. The gym obsession, the weekend conferences, the shift in cologne, the way he locked his phone now. She listed it all like a confession. Like she'd been waiting for someone to confirm her worst fears. I offered to send the screenshots. She didn't hesitate. 20 minutes later, she called me back. Her voice was tight, shaking, but not broken. "I want to help," she said. "Let's confront them together." And just like that, we had a plan. Simple, devastating, clinical. She would arrive at my house at exactly 6:30 p.m. on Friday. Sarah always got home by 6 on Fridays. That routine had been her alibi for months. But this time, it would be her undoing. Jennifer and I would walk in together, and everything would unfold, naturally. Friday came with perfect timing. Sarah got home at 5:55, earlier than expected. She was in a great mood, probably thinking she was successfully juggling 2 relationships without either of us knowing. She even suggested ordering Chinese and watching Netflix, quality time with the husband while texting her boyfriend. At 6:25, I mentioned someone was stopping by briefly, a work associate picking up documents. Nothing unusual. She barely glanced up from her phone, probably texting him about weekend plans. When Jennifer's car pulled up at exactly 6:30, I felt that cold satisfaction settle in. No anger, no nerves, just calm that comes from being completely prepared. I went outside to meet Jennifer. We exchanged a brief nod. She looked nervous but determined. Jennifer was attractive, well-dressed. Looked exactly like someone who might legitimately have business with me. I opened the door and called out casually, "Honey, my colleague's here." Then walked into the living room with Jennifer beside me. Sarah looked up, and I watched her face change in real time. Confusion, then alarm, then barely controlled panic. She clearly wasn't expecting me bringing home another woman, especially not one who looked like she belonged in the same social circles. "Who is this?" she demanded, standing quickly with crossed arms. Defensive posture kicked in immediately. I smiled, enjoying it more than I should have. "This is Jennifer. She's been wanting to meet you for quite some time." Sarah's eyes darted between us, mind clearly racing through possibilities. None good. "Meet me? Why would she want to meet me?" Jennifer stepped forward slightly, her smile sharp and knowing. "Because my husband talks about you constantly. All those late-night conversations you two have been having." Color drained from Sarah's face so fast I thought she might faint. Her mouth opened and closed twice before any sound came out. "I don't know what you're talking about," she finally managed, voice cracking on every word. That's when I delivered the line I'd been rehearsing 3 weeks. "Actually, honey, you do. Jennifer is your boss's wife, and she's very interested in discussing those midnight texts you've been sending her husband." The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah stood frozen, staring at Jennifer like seeing a ghost. Her phone slipped from her hand, hit the floor with a sharp crack. "Your boss's wife," she repeated slowly. "That's impossible. You don't know anything about my work." Jennifer laughed without humor. "Actually, I know quite a bit about your work, especially the overtime you've been putting in with my husband." Sarah's walls went up immediately. "I have no idea what you're implying, but this is ridiculous. Honey," she turned to me desperately, "tell this woman she's mistaken." I leaned against the doorframe, completely relaxed. "Why would I tell her that? She's not the one who's been lying for 6 months. Jennifer pulled out her phone and started scrolling. "Really? Because, according to my husband's phone records, you two text each other 47 times daily on average, mostly after 10 p.m. "Those are work messages," Sarah said quickly. "Too quickly. Sometimes projects require communication outside normal hours." Jennifer's voice was ice cold. "Projects? Like room 237 at the Marriott last Tuesday? Because that's exactly what he told me he was doing. Working on a project." The look on Sarah's face was priceless. Pure panic mixed with dawning realization that she'd been caught in a web of lies collapsing around her. "That's not what happened," she stammered. "You're taking things out of context. Business meetings sometimes happen in hotels." I finally pushed off the doorframe and walked closer. "Business meetings at midnight? Because that's when you texted him Tuesday night from the hotel parking lot." Her face went white. "You went through my phone?" Jennifer didn't wait for permission. She started reading directly from her screen. "Tuesday, 11:47 p.m. Can't stop thinking about tonight. You drive me crazy." Wednesday, 12:15 a.m. Wish I could stay over instead of going home to him. Thursday, 10:30 p.m. 2 more days until we can be alone again. With each message, Sarah seemed to shrink smaller. "Stop," she whispered. "Just stop." "Why?" I asked. Getting uncomfortable hearing your own words? She turned to me with tears starting to form. You don't understand. It's complicated. Jennifer's voice was sharp. Complicated? You mean like how you told my husband you were thinking about leaving your marriage? Or how you two discussed what moving in together would be like? That hit Sarah like a physical blow. She actually staggered backward. He told you that? Jennifer said. I read it. All of it. Every plan you two made behind our backs. Every lie you told to cover tracks. Sarah looked at me desperately. You have to believe me. I never said those things. She's twisting everything. I pulled out my phone and opened screenshots from weeks ago. Really? Because I have the same conversations right here, word for word. Should I start reading too? Her voice was barely a whisper now. Where did you get those? I said. From your phone. 3 weeks ago, right after we made love and you went to shower. Your boyfriend couldn't wait until morning to tell you how much he missed you. The timing hit her like a sledgehammer. She slumped onto the couch, finally understanding every move she'd made had been discovered and documented. How long have you known? She asked quietly. Long enough to watch you lie to my face every single day since. Long enough to see you plan weekend getaways with him while kissing me goodnight. Jennifer put her phone away and looked at Sarah with pure disgust. My husband thinks he's been so clever. Thinks I don't notice when he comes home smelling like your perfume, Sarah said, looking between us. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. It just developed over time. We tried to fight it. You tried to fight it? I couldn't help but laugh. Is that what you call booking hotel rooms twice weekly? Is that what you call planning a future together? You didn't fight anything. She was crying now. But they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of someone caught facing consequences for the first time. What do you want from me? Jennifer and I exchanged a look. This was the moment we'd planned for. This is about truth, I said. This is about both of us being done with lies and secrets. This is about you facing exactly what you've done. Jennifer added, and this is about ending this fantasy you've been living because it ends tonight. Sarah wiped her eyes, and suddenly her whole demeanor shifted. The tears stopped. Her shoulders straightened. Fine, she said, voice steadier now. Yes, we've been seeing each other, but it's not some sordid affair like you're making it sound. We have genuine feelings for each other. Jennifer made a sound of disgust. Genuine feelings? You're destroying 2 families for genuine feelings? You wouldn't understand, Sarah shot back. Your marriage might be perfect, but mine hasn't been for years. He's emotionally distant, never wants to talk about anything meaningful. I had to admire the strategy. When caught red-handed, immediately make it the betrayed husband's fault. Too bad I was ready for it. Emotionally distant, I said calmly. Is that what you call the weekend trips I planned for us? The date nights I suggested that you said you were too tired for? She faltered, but recovered quickly. That's exactly what I mean. You never actually listen when I try to tell you what's wrong. I asked, when did you try telling me? Before or after you started sleeping with your boss? Jennifer had been listening with growing irritation. Feeling alone, so your solution was making sure I felt alone too? And my kids get to feel alone when their family falls apart? Sarah said coldly. That's not my responsibility. I didn't force anyone to do anything. We're both adults who made choices. The mask was completely off now. You're right, I said. You are adults who made choices, like the choice to laugh about how clueless your spouses were. I scrolled through my screenshots. Here it is. Last Sunday, 2:15 p.m. Your husband writes, she actually believed I was at a client dinner until 11 p.m. And your response? Mine thinks I'm at book club tonight. Sometimes I wonder if they're really this naive. Jennifer's hands clenched into fists. You called me naive while I was home taking care of our children, Sarah said defensively. I was venting. Everyone complains about their spouse sometimes. I couldn't believe it. You were making plans to move in together while mocking us for trusting you. That's not venting. That's calculating. Jennifer pulled up another message. Really? Because on March 15th, you told my husband, we should start looking at apartments together, somewhere neither of them would think to look for us. Sarah's face flushed red. We were just talking about hypotheticals. We never actually made concrete plans. Hypotheticals? I laughed harshly. You picked out neighborhoods. You discussed lease terms. You even talked about which furniture you'd take from our house. She stared at me. How could you possibly know that? I said, because I've been watching you for 3 weeks. Every lie, every secret meeting. Did you know you smile differently when you're texting him? Jennifer stood and walked to the window. You know what the worst part is? You made us accomplices in your betrayal. Every time we trusted you. Every time we made excuses for your behavior. Sarah was getting desperate now. Look, I know this is bad. I know I made mistakes, but marriages fail sometimes. People grow apart. Marriages don't fail, I said quietly. People fail marriages. There's a difference. She protested. You can't put this all on me. I replied, I'm not putting anything on you that you didn't put there yourself. Every choice was yours. Every lie was yours. She slumped back into the couch. So what happens now? I looked at Jennifer, who nodded slightly. Now you get to experience consequences, I said. Something you've been avoiding for 6 months. Sarah's eyes darted between us, fear creeping back. What kind of consequences? I pulled out a manila folder I'd left on the kitchen counter earlier. The kind that happen when someone spends 6 months documenting their own destruction. Her eyes fixed on the folder. Evidence, timeline, financial records, hotel receipts, phone logs, everything a divorce attorney needs to establish adultery. You're divorcing me. She said it like the thought never occurred to her. Jennifer spoke up. My husband is about to face the same choice, except he won't get to choose. I filed for divorce this morning. Sarah's head snapped toward Jennifer. This morning? But you just found out. I found out 3 days ago, Jennifer corrected. I've spent those days consulting attorneys, securing financial documents, making sure our children's interests are protected. Sarah looked at me accusingly. You've been planning this for 3 days? I said. I've been planning this for 3 weeks, ever since I discovered what you've been doing. She stood abruptly and started pacing. This is insane. You can't just end a marriage over this. We can work through it. I asked, work through what exactly? Your affair? Your lies? Your complete lack of remorse? She said desperately. I can change. I can stop seeing him. We can go to counseling. Jennifer laughed bitterly. You mean the same counseling you told my husband was pointless? The same counseling you said was just a way for guilty spouses to avoid real consequences? Sarah went pale. Jennifer held up her phone. You told him that if either of us suggested counseling, it meant we were getting suspicious and you'd need to be more careful. She stopped pacing and turned to face me. What do you want? Money? The house? Fine, keep whatever you want. But don't throw away 8 years over a mistake. I said firmly, 6 months of planning secret meetings is not a mistake. Discussing moving in together is not a mistake. Laughing about how stupid your husband is for trusting you is not a mistake. Jennifer walked back over. He's not giving you a chance because you've already shown him exactly who you are, just like my husband showed me. I explained. When someone lies to you for 6 months, you learn something important about their character. You learn they're capable of looking you in the eye every single day while betraying everything you thought you meant to them. Sarah sat back down. So that's it? You've already decided? I told her. I decided 3 weeks ago. I just wanted to see if you'd ever tell me the truth voluntarily. If you'd ever show even a hint of genuine remorse instead of making excuses. She was quiet for a long moment. What about his job? If this comes out at work, it could ruin his career. Jennifer's expression turned ice cold. Good, Sarah protested. You can't be serious. He has responsibilities. Other people depend on him. I said other people depend on honest leadership, not someone who takes advantage of his position to sleep with subordinates. She said quickly, I'm not a subordinate. We're equals. Jennifer pointed out, you report to him. He controls your promotions, your assignments, your career advancement. How is that equal? Sarah started to say, it's not like he promised me anything in exchange for... She stopped, realizing what she'd almost admitted. I asked quietly, in exchange for what? Jennifer shook her head in disgust. Unbelievable! Not only were you having an affair, you were getting professional benefits from it. I said, then explain the promotion you got last month. The one you said came out of nowhere. The one you celebrated by texting him about how things were finally working out. Her mouth fell open. How could you possibly know about that text? I replied. Because I know about all the texts, every single one. Jennifer stood again, her composure finally cracking. My signature is on our tax returns, returns that show his business income, income that was apparently being used to pay for hotel rooms with you. That's enough, Sarah said, her voice rising. You've humiliated me enough. What do you want me to do now? I looked at her, still trying to control the situation, still not showing any genuine understanding of the pain she'd caused. I want you to pack a bag, I said quietly. I want you to find somewhere else to stay tonight. And I want you to understand that this marriage is over. You can't kick me out of my own house, I said firmly. Actually, I can. My name is on the deed, yours isn't. The final piece of her security crumbled. Jennifer gathered her purse and coat. I should go. I've got my own situation to handle. As she walked toward the door, she paused and looked back at Sarah. For what it's worth, you didn't just destroy your marriage tonight. You destroyed mine too. I hope whatever you thought you were getting was worth it. After Jennifer left, the house felt impossibly quiet. Sarah sat on the couch, staring at the floor, finally understanding that her carefully constructed double life had completely collapsed. I never meant for it to happen this way, she said quietly. I asked, how did you mean for it to happen? She looked up with empty eyes. I don't know, I just never thought about the ending. The silence stretched between us. So what happens now? She asked without looking up. Now you pack a bag like I told you. Find somewhere to stay tonight. She looked at me, scrambling for one last angle. This is my home too. You can't just throw me out because you're angry. I'm not throwing you out because I'm angry. I'm asking you to leave because continuing to live together while we divorce would be awkward, especially when your boyfriend finds out his wife just destroyed his career. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? Did you think Jennifer was just going to quietly file for divorce and pretend nothing happened? She's been married to him for 12 years. She knows exactly where all his professional vulnerabilities are. Sarah said, she wouldn't do that. She seemed reasonable. I almost laughed. Reasonable? You think a woman who just discovered her husband has been cheating for 6 months is going to be reasonable about protecting his reputation? But if she ruins him professionally, it hurts her too. I explained. She's a nurse practitioner with her own income. She doesn't need his money as much as he needs his reputation. Besides, affairs between supervisors and subordinates create liability issues for companies. HR departments don't like liability. The color drained from her face. They'll fire both of us. I nodded. Probably, though he'll get fired for misusing his authority. You'll just get fired for participating. She stood abruptly. This is insane. You're destroying my entire life over this, I said calmly. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just refusing to pretend it didn't happen. She spun around to face me. You're enjoying this, aren't you? I replied. I'm enjoying watching actions have consequences for once. You've spent 6 months thinking you were smarter than everyone around you. Turns out you weren't. She said, I never thought I was smarter than anyone. I just fell in love with someone else. You fell in love? I couldn't keep the sarcasm out. Is that what you call planning to abandon your marriage without having the courage to end it first? She stopped pacing and looked at me. Do you really hate me this much? I said honestly. I don't hate you at all. That's probably the saddest part. I should hate you, but I just feel sorry for you. Sorry for me? I explained. Sorry that you threw away something genuine for something that was never going to last. Sorry that you chose lies over truth, excitement over stability, selfishness over love. She asked, how do you know it wasn't going to last? Because it was built on deception from day one. Because he was willing to cheat on his wife, which means he'd be willing to cheat on you. Because you were willing to cheat on your husband, which means you'd be willing to cheat on him. She sat back down heavily. That's not true. What we have is different. What you have is shared guilt and the thrill of getting away with something. Take away the secrecy and what's left, she whispered. Love is left. I said firmly, love doesn't lie to people for 6 months. Love doesn't mock the trust of innocent people. Love doesn't destroy families for personal satisfaction. Her phone buzzed on the floor. She looked at it but didn't pick it up. Aren't you going to check? I asked. That might be your boyfriend wondering why you haven't texted him tonight. The phone buzzed again and again. She finally picked it up and read the messages. I watched her face change as she realized he had no idea what had just happened. He doesn't know, she said quietly. Know what? I asked. That she knows that any of this happened tonight. He thinks everything is still normal. I said, well, tomorrow's going to be quite a wake-up call for him. She looked at me with panic. What if I don't tell him? What if I just disappear for a while until this blows over? Blows over? I couldn't believe it. You think this is going to blow over? Your marriage is over. His marriage is over. Your jobs are probably over. There's nothing to save anymore, she pleaded. There has to be something, some way to fix this. I looked at her, still trying to find an escape route from consequences. The way to fix this was to not do it in the first place. The way to fix this was to talk to me when you started feeling disconnected instead of finding someone else. The way to fix this was to end our marriage honorably instead of destroying it dishonorably. She was quiet for a long time. What am I supposed to do now? She finally asked. Pack a bag, find somewhere to stay, call a lawyer. Start dealing with the reality of what your choices have cost you. She stood slowly. I never wanted it to end like this. I said, How did you want it to end? She replied, I don't know. I never thought about the ending. That was your first mistake, I said. Everything has an ending. Every choice leads somewhere. You just chose not to think about where yours were leading. As she walked toward the stairs, she turned back one more time. Will you ever be able to forgive me? I considered the question seriously. Someday, probably, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean pretending this didn't happen. She asked hopefully, Does it mean we could ever? I said firmly, No, it doesn't mean that. Some things can't be undone. Some trust can't be rebuilt. Some relationships can't survive the weight of betrayal. She nodded slowly and continued up the stairs. I could hear her moving around in the bedroom, opening drawers and closets. 20 minutes later, she came back downstairs with a suitcase and her car keys. I'll call you tomorrow, she said, to talk about logistics. I replied, Talk to my lawyer about logistics. I'll have him contact you once I hire one. So this is really it? This is really how it ends? I looked at her standing in the doorway with her suitcase, finally facing the consequences of 6 months of lies and betrayal. No, I said. This is how it begins. Your new life starts now. Make better choices this time. After she left, I sat in the quiet house and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. The lies were over. The pretending was over. The wondering and questioning my own instincts was over. For the first time in 6 months, I knew exactly where I stood, and it felt like solid ground. 6 weeks later, I was in my lawyer's office signing the final divorce papers. The process moved faster than expected, mainly because she didn't contest anything. Hard to argue for favorable settlement when the other side has 6 months of documented adultery. She'd agreed to all terms: no alimony, minimal asset division, waiving any claim to the house. My attorney mentioned her former employer settled quietly with several affected parties. Apparently, this wasn't their first HR nightmare involving management. Jennifer's ex-husband had been terminated for cause within a week of her filing. Sarah lasted 3 days longer before they found reasons to let her go too. The drive home felt different, lighter. The house was truly mine again, no longer a stage where someone performed the role of loving wife while planning her exit. Jennifer called as I pulled into the driveway. How did it go? She asked. Signed, sealed, delivered. How about you? She replied. Finalized last week. He's moved back with his parents. 42 years old, starting over in his childhood bedroom. I laughed. Poetic justice. She said, The kids are adjusting well. Honestly, they barely noticed he was gone. Turns out his constant business trips hadn't made him much of a father anyway. We'd stayed in touch throughout the divorce proceedings. Not romantically, but as allies who'd survived the same betrayal. She'd become a genuine friend. Any regrets? She asked. About the divorce? None. About how I handled it? None. About trusting her in the first place? I paused. Maybe, but that's on me, not her. Jennifer said firmly, Don't do that. Don't blame yourself for believing someone when they promised to love you. Fair point. After we hung up, I walked through the house that felt like mine again. No more wondering where she really was when she claimed working late. No more analyzing her mood for signs of guilt. No more living with someone who saw me as an obstacle rather than a partner. The kitchen counter where her phone used to charge looked empty now, but not in a sad way. In a clean way, like a surface cleared for something new. My neighbor stopped by with a casserole that evening. Thought you might want a home-cooked meal, Mrs. Patterson said with a knowing smile. How did you? She interrupted. Honey, the whole neighborhood knew something was up when she started leaving at odd hours. We were all rooting for you to wise up eventually. My phone buzzed with a text from my brother. Drinks tonight to celebrate your freedom? I typed back absolutely. For the first time in months, I was making plans for myself instead of working around someone else's secret schedule. The woman who'd shared my bed for 8 years was gone, but she'd taken her deception with her. What remained was honest, clean, and entirely mine. 6 months ago, I discovered my wife was having an affair. Tonight, I was celebrating the end of a marriage that had been over long before I'd found those midnight messages. Some endings are actually beginnings in disguise.